Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Namaste everyone. We have been discussing Swami Vivekananda's some of the important and very inspiring letters. Today I am going to take from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, volume 6, letter number 51. This was written to Dr. Nanjundarao from Chennai. Swamiji wrote this from America. He wrote this on 30th November of 1894. So we are going back by more than a century. And let's see how Swami Vivekananda's words still continue to be so relevant to all of us. We will see. USA, 30th November 1894. Dear and beloved, your beautiful letter just came to hand. I am so glad that you have come to know Sri Ramakrishna. I am very glad at the strength of your Vairagya. It is the one primary necessity in reaching God. So here Swamiji is saying Vairagya is, that is renunciation, that is dispassion, is the one primary necessity in reaching God. I had always great hopes for Madras, and still I have the firm belief that from Madras will come the spiritual wave that will deluge India. I can only say Godspeed to your good intentions. But here, my son, are the difficulties. In the first place, no man ought to take a hasty step. In the second place, you must have some respect for the feelings of your mother and wife. True, you may say that we, the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, had not always shown great deference to the opinions of our parents. I think we'll just discuss it a bit. Here we understand that Dr. Nanjundarao wanted to give up the world and dedicate himself to the spiritual life. And Swamiji encouraged that thought initially. Then there is a practical side to anybody who wants to renounce. What about the family? That's one thing, even today it continues to hold good. So especially he was married. So what Swamiji is saying, you shouldn't take a hasty step. Sometimes you may feel that you want to renounce everything and go away. And Swamiji is warning against that, not to take a hasty step. And then we should have some respect for the feelings of our parents, and if we are married, our wife. And then he says, but what about you guys? That Nanjundarao may say to Swami Vivekananda himself, what about you guys? You all left your parents and you renounced life and dedicated to the service of the nation and for realization of God. Then he's answering that Swami Vivekananda in the next sentence. I know and know for sure that great things are done only by great sacrifices. Swamiji stresses this point. I know and know for sure that great things are done only by great sacrifices. I know for certain that India requires the sacrifice of our highest and best. And I sincerely hope that it will be your good fortune to be one of them. So what a beautiful line Swamiji writes here. It's relevant to all of us. He says, I know for certain that India requires the sacrifice of our highest and best. And I sincerely hope that it will be your good fortune to be one of them. Then Swamiji continues, throughout the history of the world, you find great men make great sacrifices, and the mass of mankind enjoy the benefit. We always see this in any country. Some people give up everything and work for the nation, and whatever the great things they accomplish, they are for the masses to enjoy. But the person himself who sacrificed may not get that enjoyment as the people get. And he says, if you want to give up everything for your own salvation, it is nothing. Do you want to forego even your own salvation for the good of the world? You are God. Think of that. If you want to give up everything for your own salvation, it is nothing. Do you want to forgo even your own salvation for the good of the world? You are God. Think of that. Then Swamiji continues. My advice to you is to live the life of a brahmacharin. So he wants to give up the world. Swamiji is saying, first to live the life of a brahmacharin. Yes, that is, giving up all sexual enjoyment for a certain time. Live in the house of your father. This is the Kutichaka stage. So for some time, Swamiji is forbidding Dr. Nanjundarao from sexual enjoyment, and then live with his father. This is called the Kutichaka stage. You stay at one place and practice the spiritual disciplines. Then he says, try to bring your wife to consent to your great sacrifice for the good of the world. So we know that Nanjundarao was married and he wanted to renounce. And Swamiji is giving practical advices as to how to go about it. Now we spoke about the glory of renunciation. He spoke about the glory of sacrificing for the good of the country. Now he's trying to help him. As we saw earlier, he wanted Nanjundarao to have respect for the feelings of his parents and his wife. Then Swamiji is saying, first live a life of a brahmacharin for some time, giving up all the sexual enjoyments. Then convince your wife about the great sacrifice he wants to make and for the good of the world. That is very important. And he says, and if you have burning faith and all-conquering love and almighty purity, I do not doubt that you will shortly succeed. That is, he will succeed in getting the consent of his wife for the great sacrifice he wants to make. Then Swamiji says, give yourself body and soul to the work of spreading the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. For work is the first stage. So here, of course, we all know that Swamiji was the disciple of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a God-realized saint, and he was basically born to show a direction to all of us. So his life was a glowing example of the intense purity and austerity and liberality and love for the whole world, especially mankind. So this has to be spread for the good of the world. So he says, give yourself body and soul to the work of spreading the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. For work is the first stage. So if you want to attain liberation, first we have to purify ourselves by work, and there is no greater work than than spreading the message of a holy person like Sri Ramakrishna, especially for the current age, who came specifically down at this age to help mankind in its march towards perfection. Then Swamiji gives further tips. Study Sanskrit diligently as well as practice devotion. Swamiji wanted all of us to study Sanskrit, especially for those who wants to go about preaching, especially the religious things. So studying Sanskrit is very much essential, as well as practice devotion. For you ought to be a great teacher of mankind. And my Guru Maharaja used to say, a pen knife is sufficient to commit suicide with, but to kill others, one requires guns and swords. Basically, if you want to attain liberation, one mantra is enough for us. We can just hold on to that idea and practice and go to seclusion and get ourselves liberated. But if you want to preach others, then so many things we have to study. People will ask questions about science, they want to link it to religion. We see the modern spiritual gurus like Sadhguru, and there are so many others. who try to interlink different things, even quantum physics with the modern science, with the Vedanta. So all these things are being done. So they try to give a logical explanation, a rational basis for reconciling the ideas of science and religion. So for to be able to do that, we must be well educated ourselves. So Swamiji, this way is saying, if you want to teach others, then you should become more knowledgeable. You should have more knowledge of different things, especially for him, the study of Sanskrit in this case, because all our scriptures, all our ancient scriptures, the Upanishads are in Sanskrit. So Swamiji wanted Nanjundarao to study Sanskrit, and he tells us also to study Sanskrit. And it's one thing he said that the study of Sanskrit will give a prestige to the race. We should also take up the study of Sanskrit even a little. It will be wonderful. And he says, and in the fullness of time it will be given unto you when to go forth out of the world and preach his sacred name. That is, once we are qualified. Your determination is holy and good. God speed to you, but do not take any hasty step. Then Swamiji says, first purify yourself by work and devotion. See, already spoke about it earlier. Work is spreading the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. Then learning devotion is the very first step. Then Swamiji says, India has suffered long. The religion eternal has suffered long. But the Lord is merciful. Once more he has come to help his children. Once more the opportunity is given to rise to fallen India. India can only rise by sitting at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. His life and his teachings are to be spread far and wide, are to be made to penetrate every pore of Hindu society. Who will do it? Who are to take up the flag of Ramakrishna and march for the salvation of the world? Who are to stem the tide of degeneration at the sacrifice of name and fame, wealth and enjoyment, nay, of every hope of this or other worlds? A few young men have jumped in the breach, have sacrificed themselves. They are a few. We want a few thousands of such as they, and they will come. This is prophetic. So Swami is referring to his own brother disciples who took up this flag of Sri Ramakrishna. They started from a very dilapidated one building in Kolkata. So that was the Ramakrishna movement. It was infested by cobras and all. And they were very young, around 20 years of age. And they had that great conviction in the life of Sri Ramakrishna and his message that they gave up the world, they sacrificed themselves to realizing God and to guide humanity. It's one of the greatest occasions, greatest moments in world history, the founding of Ramakrishna movement. Then he says, we want thousands more. When they started, they were about 16 or thereabout. And then he says, we want thousands. And he says, they will come. Today we will see there are definitely more than 1,000 monks of Ramakrishna order. And there are many others who have been inspired by this great mission of Sri Ramakrishna. They have been spreading that great message all over the world. And Swamiji says here, I am glad that our Lord has put it in your mind to be one of them. Glory unto him on whom falls the Lord's choice. Your determination is good. Your hopes are high. Your aim is the noblest in the world, to bring millions sunk in darkness to the light of the Lord. But my son, here are the drawbacks. Nothing shall be done in haste. So the Swami is repeating again and again. Then he gives that three watchwords. Purity, patience and perseverance are the three essentials to success. Purity, patience and perseverance are the three essentials to success, and above all, love. All time is yours. There is no indecent haste. Everything will come right if you are pure and sincere. We want hundreds like you bursting upon society and bringing new life and vigor of the spirit wherever they go. Godspeed to you. Yours with all blessings, Vivekananda. So thank you so much for being a part of this reading. We'll continue to read from Swami Vivekananda's great inspiring letters, and in our own capacity we'll try to contribute to the great mission that Swami Vivekananda came to fulfill. And we pray to Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa to make us all the instrument in spreading his wonderful message for the betterment of mankind. Thank you so much. Namaste.